Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Podcast 16. As always, I'm Sean, this is Chris. We are your voice, your nation. This is the Blue Collar Workers. Thank you for joining us again. As always, it's a pleasure. Thank you for who likes and subscribes our page. We appreciate everybody who comes on to these podcasts. We are always open for conversation. We're always open for people to discuss, leave comments, whatever you like. Even negative comments, we genuinely try to answer in a robust and positive way, unless you're just being downrightly nasty, at which point I will genuinely tell you exactly where I think you can go, only in my head, because I don't do it online, because it just causes unnecessary fucking drama. I've got quite a few. It's impossible to avoid the Trump fallout today, so we're going to be discussing Trump's tariffs, both the ones on the UK and the trade war that is literally going to backfire on him, as two of the leading topics from myself. There's also the topic of the king drawn into Chinese spy scandal with his brother Andrew, which I think is just absolutely fucking appalling. Then there is the drug gang boss who had a fling with his prison governor. I have to talk about that, especially with my past. This is like cherry on an icing cake. You could never possibly have done this going back 20 years ago. Today's prisons seem to be a fucking joke. What you got on your side, Chris?
I see on my side today, we got alleged police force denying white British male applicants to boost diversity. That's an interesting one to talk about. Home Secretary on grooming gangs. About time.
I'm going to have a say a thing about that.
I was going to say that one's going to be another interesting one. And the latest on GP waiting times. I'm absolutely disgusted at this. And literally something that needs to improve dramatically in order for Labour to uphold the promise that they've turned around and said they'll do. So
let's get into that one. Labour aren't going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I've told you, time and time again.
All right, going from the latest article. Patients are facing a postcode lottery when it comes to GP appointments, with 1 in 10 people waiting more than a month to be seen by your GP, depending on your area. The number of month-long waits hit a record high last year. In almost 95% of all areas, that was an increase in people waiting 28 days or more.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Christ.
The figures compiled by the House of Commons Library demonstrates that the uphill battle facing Labour as it ramps up recruitment for family doctors in bid to cut waiting times and ease pressure on the NHS. Health Secretary announced on Tuesday that an extra 1,503 GPs have been recruited already since October, but going by the latest stats, that needs to increase even more, with the Health Secretary prioritising services close to patient homes. But the number of general practitioners per patient has fallen drastically in the past decade. So even though the recruiting has gone up, it has not. And the
key factor of why I had this conversation, because I've just been recently going to my GP, and we are lucky in the area we are in Gloucestershire that we have a pretty good spread of our doctors, and we're only looking at 2 to 2.5 week waits, which isn't that bad to see when you're looking at this month long.
Yeah.
Gloucestershire's doing relatively well comparative to the rest of the UK, which is swamped. The reality is the doctors are fed up. They do their basic minimum time and they're going elsewhere with their medical degrees.
Yeah.
They're literally leaving the country.
Just to put some lovely figures towards it, the starkest rise was in Sunderland, where 51% of the people are waiting a month-long waits, if not longer, followed by North East Lancashire with 46% jump.
Again, the government does not incentivise GPs to stay. They've increased the workload. They haven't meaningfully increased their money. They're locked into contracts to be part of the NHS for only 5 years. The problem being is after that 5 years, junior doctors are out the country, because a doctor's degree is a very valuable place anywhere in the Commonwealth. New Zealand, Australia, Canada, they will pay hand over fist for a qualified doctor, regardless of his skin colour, creed or religion. So people seeking medical degrees, including this increase in recruitment, unless the government addresses the root problem Doctors feel under pressure, feel underappreciated, overworked, underpaid. These are critical problems. These are medically critical problems. And doctors, unless they're very patriotic and loyal, once they've done their minimum term, let's take a junior doctor, 28, 29, 30, finished his 5 years in British medical profession, NHS, slides out the door, grabs his young wife and kid and fucks off to Canada. And you can't blame the man when he's being paid 90 to 100 grand in Canada for a doctor's degree.
I say just another thing, literally, the research commission by the Liberal Democrats found Kent and Medway, which was one area with the most month-long waits in the county, with 781,000 rising by more than a fifth from 2023's levels, followed second by Derby and Derbyshire by 722,000, up 14% from the year earlier. Meanwhile, more than 1 in 10 patients were forced, not they just couldn't get in, were forced to wait more than a month to see GP in the areas including Gloucestershire, Coley and South Ribble, Derby and Derbyshire.
I thought our area was quite good. I mean, like, literal example. I've had my next doctor appointment is in 2 weeks. I must be lucky.
I need to see a doctor about the ankle, and I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered.
Jesus.
Since it's on the hill anyway.
So I wanted to do comparisons.
Yeah.
A British doctor earns roughly 2.5 grand to 2,900 per month as a junior doctor. In Canada, it's 9.5 to 25,500 Canadian dollars. Do you understand? Do the podcast understand the incentive to remain in Britain after you have made your minimum requirements of the NHS doesn't exist?
What's the conversion rate on that? Canadian to British?
Chris, you can live comfortably on 4 grand with a 4-bedroom house. 4 grand a month. The bottom end's 9.5.
Fucking hell.
Bottom end of Britain's is 2.5k. You tell me, we struggle on 2.5k, don't we?
I'm going to say I earn roughly 2.5k, and I literally...
And for a junior doctor, it's 2.5 to 2.9. That's the difference. The gap is so...
Hang on, she's telling me I'm earning as much as a junior doctor?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just shy of that. That's what I'm saying. The junior doctors are
I thought a junior doctor would be like well ahead of me.
No, of course not. And specialist doctors earn 4.3 to 6k a month, whilst consultants can earn 7 to 10. But a consultant is a fully qualified doctor at that point.
That's top of the tree.
Top of the tree. Whereas in Canada, top of the tree is 117 to 250.
I'll be fucking off to Canada.
Exactly. Literally, there is no incentive for British doctors to remain in the UK. There isn't. And this is the fundamental point, that even though the NHS is having mass recruitments, it's the staying power that we need to deal with. And our nation needs to get to grip that there is no incentive. Remember, we've got one of the best medical facilities involving training our doctors. Our quality of our trained doctors are brilliant.
Training,
absolutely
we're
fucking brilliant.
Up there.
But after you've done your minimum 5 years, why would you stay?
Not on those wages, I wouldn't.
No.
Why would I stay on those wages when I could get double in Canada?
Yeah, exactly. Literally, you're getting £2,900 per month in Britain, and we know the cost of that, where instead you could get 9,750 and you only need 4 grand a month in Canada to hold a 4-bedroom house.
4 grand a month in Canada to hold everything together. You're getting paid basically double that. You're laughing.
This is why.
Granted, you do have to deal with the frigging epic snowstorms that they deal with, but for that amount of money, I wouldn't care.
If you've got a doctor's degree and you've done your basic 5 years, Chris, what would you'd be out the door, wouldn't you?
I'd be gone.
You've just turned 30, you've got a young wife, your first kid, your second, you're out the door to Canada. And the problem is Canada will fast track any doctor.
They'll turn around and go, oh, you're looking for a job, here you go, whack straight to the front table, you'd be gone.
It's a doctor.
Yeah.
Every country needs them. And the Commonwealth will take British doctors hand over fist. They don't care about your religion, your creed, or anything like that. You have a doctor's degree from Britain. Come to my country. And I think Australia's no different.
Australia will snap you up as well.
I don't know, because they're starting to recruit and build their own doctors quite well from the pool of doctors they've been recruiting from us for decades.
Yeah. Maybe not so much now.
Yeah, but New Zealand, Canada, probably no. Who wants to live in America these days? You get arrested. I'm a doctor. I'm here for a job. No, he looks like a terrorist. Bang him up. It's America. Seriously, the amount of people who are getting arrested by ICE on the border is unfucking real for the minorest reasons. ICE is insane. I don't think ICE will survive the fall of Donald Trump, and he is going to fall. Trump's tariffs on the UK. How will this affect our country, and what will the spineless Prime Minister give up to British standards for the tariffs to be dropped? The UK exports nearly £60 billion worth of goods to the US, a third of what we do to Europe. I want to make that very clear. 60 billion is the entirety to the US. We do 180 to 200 billion of trade next door. So let's put that into comparisons here. Whatever the Prime Minister is going to give up is going to create trade barriers with Europe. So you see, if we allow that spineless, dirty chicken, that vile chicken into our country, it could sneak across the border, across theirs, and Europe will be forced to raise tariffs and barriers on us because of America's filthy fucking meat industry that wants to come into the European and British market.
No, they could bugger off. That's crap.
After President Donald Trump announced a 10% tariff on nearly all UK products, we spoke to businesses from some of the Britain's biggest exporters to find out what could mean for them. Food and drink, we've got very few orders than normal. The UK food and drinks industry exports a couple of £1 billion worth of goods to the US every year, satisfying American tastes with specialist products like smoked salmon, Scottish whisky, and artisan cheeses. Adam Soferis, co-founder and chief executive of 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞𝐿, the London-based luxury popcorn maker, said the mere speculative tariffs have already been affecting his business, and he might be running down his stock until basically to end, because tariffs just wipe. What the tariffs are going to do, they're going to wipe out whatever bracket, because when Britain has a high tax bracket, one of the reasons I keep saying we need to fix Britain's tax system, the tax bracket is just above that, between that as well, where the tariff eats into that bracket. When the tariff eats into that bracket, that's the profit. That's the profit gone. So why would you run a business like that? Why would you export to the US? And this is entirely intentional for Donald Trump.
You go the other way, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You go Europe and Asia.
Or, no, because for specialists, they're specialising in what markets they want to do. So they'd have to retool their industries, and that might cost more than what they're making, mate. So this could damage British industries entirely. US retailers usually place their orders for Christmas early in the year, but it's had far fewer orders than normal as retailers wait to see what happens. Joe & Spence made 8 million in sales last year, of which 2 to 3% came up from the US. So it's not huge, says Mr. Sophus, but the US is the biggest popcorn maker in the world, so we have planned that there's a lot of our growth would come from there, popcorn consumers and makers. So because obviously America does big, they love their big home theatres, they love their big screens, sitting down with the family, watch a movie, that's a very American thing. Popcorn is a big thing about that. So there is a market to be grown there, but not when you've got tariffs getting smacked left, right and centre. And it's madness. And it comes down to the fact that Donald Trump isn't doing this for trade reasons. There is a bag of bollocks when it comes towards it being a trade issue. It's not. The tariffs are designed to force companies to come back to America and build new factories. That's literally what Trump's doing. He's trying to force new companies back to factories to prevent them from using because America is a big purchaser. It's a huge purchaser. He wants to bring jobs back to America. I think the likelihood is we're going to be looking at a trade collapse of the US. An absolute collapse, and a collapse of the US dollar as well. I think it is. All the experts are talking about the US dollar will collapse if this trade war continues, not just with China. And that's another thing that moves on for later in the podcast, where we mentioned about how he's putting tariffs, he's not putting tariffs, he's doing this, he's doing that. He's playing football with the world economy, and at some point it's going to deflate the ball, and he's going to be left with the largest bag of excrement of trade in the world. People are selling the US dollar, like the bonds of the US dollar. They're selling them. Yeah. We are watching live stream the end. Donald Trump is going to end the US economy. He's going to crash the economy. He's going to crash the dollar. He's going to do enormous fucking damage.
There's people that are already taking advantage on the stock market.
I'm aware of it. However, the 10% tariff was not as bad as we had expected, and the US importers already have paid 5.8 of the tariffs of Joe Spice goods when they reach American ports. So essentially what happens is we are going to from 5.8 to 10% as opposed to 0 to 10%, says Mr. Sophis. It is also lower than the new US tariff levels on other countries, such as 20% on the tax on the rest of the European Union, that isn't coming into force just yet because of the Chinese and the Americans now in a full-blown, no-hold-you-bars, bloody knuckles trade fight.
Yeah, it's because of the fact one raised tariffs, the other one raised tariffs, and the other one raises tariffs, and it's just going back in full circle.
I mean, it's going to backfire. I fundamentally believe the trade war is going to horrifically backfire. It will do enormous damage to both the US economy. It'll do fucking huge damage to many of the smaller to medium countries across Europe. It could bankrupt some of the smaller countries. And Britain is not a great nation anymore. I love my country, I love my people, but we are not some empire that can draw on resources from across various parts. We are not this great power we used to be. We do not have industries in other parts of the world anymore. So you need to realise that what we've got, the economy that is affected here in these United Kingdoms, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, England, the little bit in Gibraltar, those ecosystems are economical systems are very, very vulnerable to the US's volatile tariff system. And Gibraltar is fucked because it has to rely on Spain. And Spain's inside that 20%. So Britons are going to suffer from the 20% anyway when Donald Trump brings it in, even though he suspended it for 90 days. I mean, what's your opinion?
I think it's just sodding stupid. I don't know why he's put such a high price mark on tariffs anyway. Since we already paid tariffs and whatnot, why not? Because obviously from what I can gather from what I've heard from him so far, people are taking advantage. Then renegotiate tariffs with the people that are taking advantage.
I essentially think that Donald Trump has this idea that he can return America to the 1960s, where all the factories and all the industry came into America. America was selling surplus of goods to the world. It hasn't gone like that. American dollar is so powerful that it has granted purchasing ability. So the American people can spend more, buy more around the world. The global market was set up for America's benefit. But Donald seems to have this vision of all the workers being happy, everyone having jobs, the new industries requiring less and less man labour. That's what he wants. He wants to return textiles. He wants to return food production. He wants to return all the car industries. And I don't think he's going to pull it off.
Then why are you doing tax things that he's doing now? What trade wars and whatnot? Why not do incentives? Turn around and say, well, if you come back and do this, we'll give you a break on this. The
problem being is he's using a club. He's tried in his first term. Let's give Donald Trump his due. In his first term, he tried to entice the corporate business to return to America, and that's where he learned that the dollar was too powerful as a currency to allow him to be able to for basic American goods to be come in. You see, this is the problem. The dollar, because it's used as a reserve currency around the world, because it's used as a safe haven, the value of it is so high, it makes it very difficult for supply and demand. So we own a factory. Yeah, it's difficult for me and you to own a British factory and build clothing, Chris, because there are Bengalis that will do it for literal pennies. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to my Bengali brothers and sisters.
Yeah, it's coming down to costs.
Yeah, it's the cost. So he, I suspect, is trying to crash the US dollar to bring its value so far down that he can give the American Rust Belt, the American working Republicans, factories again. And they can get back towards building their own stuff because he has this American isolationistic view. And it is going to cause enormous political ruptures across the world. And America is going to lose allies. She's going to lose. Keir Starmer will not survive in politics. This is one of the reasons why I don't think Farage will get into power as well. And I want to touch on this. And the reason Farage won't is because of how chummy he is with Trump and how much damage Trump is doing to the British economy. You haven't felt it yet, but when these tariffs bite our European allies, us, we're all part of the global market. When the cost of living skyrockets, anything to do with Trump will be considered toxic outside of America. And Nigel Farage is besties buddies with him.
It'd be gone.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So reform is not going to be this golden lion everyone thinks it's going to be amongst many of the right wing, because the hard-working normal Britons are not going to vote for somebody who is best friends with this man who has wrecked the world economy. Okay, we eat rice from India, we eat rice from China, all of that is going to be affected. We eat saffron, we have all kinds, tea bags, fucking tea is good. We don't grow tea in Britain. Just a word of warning to you, to all you tea drinkers out there and coffee drinkers and everything else, we don't grow that here. That's all part of the world market.
And we're known for our tea.
Yeah. Obviously because of our empire. But that's a whole different fucking bag of shit we got to go. But do you understand, everything that you take that is British is going to go up in cost. There is going to be a massive cost impact to this because of Donald Trump's excuse me, isolationism. I'm going to cut that sneeze out. And because of this, you have to understand that the desire to return factories to America requires him to crash the dollar, which will crash the world market in general, which will drive the cost of living up for everybody, including us in the West and in Europe. And that cost increase means that people like Nigel Farage are never going to get in because he's too close to Trump. And everybody with a phone or a laptop can see Donald Trump caused this trade war. He is synonymous with causing this trade war. And he's done it entirely for his domestic value, which, you know, right or wrong, you can kind of judge the man for actually protecting or trying to envision a new return of factories to America. I don't think it's going to work the way he wants it. I think he has deeply underestimated the world economy.
Classic thing of, I want to achieve this, but I've gone the wrong way around to do it.
The fact of the matter is, factorial work will not work for the US. It just won't. And the reason that is because of the purchasing power of the dollar. The money that the dollar makes, $1 is worth, I think, previously before this trade war, give me a moment, Chris, while I look this up. Only 2 seconds. Exchange rate. So let's take the Indian rupiah. There are 86 rupees to every single dollar. 86 rupees. Now, I don't know the Indian economics, but I'm pretty sure that about 200 or 300 rupees you can genuinely feed a mother and a child, I think. I wouldn't say that's safe, but that's relatively what it is. So for about $3, an Indian family can be fed. That is the power, roughly, of the dollar. Now, he wants to lower the power of the US dollar. That's not from carriers, that's to do with purchasing power, oil prices, Brent oil, etc., etc. It's a whole connection of things. Once that dollar reaches a certain crash mark, once the value of the dollar gets dumped, he thinks he can then make it affordable for American workers to work in factories. That's generally what Donald Trump's dream is. It is going to horribly, horribly fuck the Western economy when he does it this way. It is. Because me and Chris can't build a clothing factory here in the UK because of the strength of the pound versus the Bangladeshi currency, which Bangladesh and Myanmar and other countries like that, they're the biggest textile factories in the world because the value of their currency to ours gives us the purchasing power, and that's why fashion shops buy their clothing from there. It's unsustainable. When you look at world economics, and crashing the world market isn't going to change that. These countries are poorer than us, and therefore they will work for less because their overall economy is worth less. Not worth less, worth
surely
less.
If he crashes the world market, not just his, but everyone else's will go down. So he'll still stay in the same bloody situation anyway.
The problem being is, I think that he will become so unpopular at home because of the cost of living and the crisis in the US will spiral. These trade deficits, he's going to do something close to the 1920s. He's going to have a 1920s level economical recession. China will be rocked, but China buys its own companies. China will use its vast tax base of 2 billion human beings to hold its economy up. We don't have that kind of power. Europe can't do that because it's too decentralized. The world is going to fucking suffer for this. I believe, and I'm not even saying I want this, but I believe China will come out on this trade war. I believe America has bitten more than it understandably true. And Donald Trump doesn't understand economics that well. He genuinely doesn't. Because if he did, he wouldn't have put tariffs on his allies. You don't fucking stab your trading partners when you want to pick a fight with the next biggest economy on the planet. I mean, it's absurd. This is why he's in La La Land. He's got a dream in what he's doing. I think the world is going to backfire. I think it's going to backfire heavily.
And when it backfires, we're all going to suffer.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. He's putting that much strain on the world market. We're all going to feel the effect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The working class people are absolutely going to suffer. The stock market turmoil deepened on Friday. That's Friday just gone. As China hit back with tariffs announced by the US President Donald Trump, raising the likelihood of an extended trade war. We are in a trade war. So this is my research from last Friday just gone. So in a week, that's entirely changed. All these major stock indexes in the US plunged more than 5%. The SP 500 dropped by 6%, capping the worst week for the US stock market since 2020. But COVID time periods. We've got to COVID. We're going to get to the 1920s. We're going to have a 100-year recovery. I can see it. We're going to fall back in terms of the collapse. There are going to be stockbrokers chucking themselves from buildings. This isn't doom and gloom. I'm telling you, what the man wants to achieve, it's going to lead to economical fucking ruin of entire parts of the world. He's telling his followers and various parts of America to hang tough. You can't hang tough when your margin for living is this. Okay, you can tell the billionaires to hang tough, and they can do that for a little bit. But they rely on us, the public, to spend. And we're not going to spend if we've got nothing to fucking do but feed our families.
I say if we've got enough to feed ourselves and cover bills, you can kiss sweet goodbye to buying any of the lecturers.
Absolutely.
Which is going to affect everything. Think of all those extra health benefits.
Analysts say the moves, some of which are due to go into effect as soon as Saturday, amounts to the biggest tax increase in the US since 1968. That's huge. That's older than me and him. They expect the measures to lead to the contraction in trade and have warned that they could drive many countries into economical recession, and it will pull America into an economical recession. This is the US's own economists and traders saying this. I'm not taking this from some kind of kook site. Yeah, I'm drawing my research from America's own stockbrokers,
own experts,
and they're saying in American press this is going downhill fast. I think this is a very telling position on where we stand as a world. And as I've said this in my last podcast and the podcast before, America is going into her decline. There's nothing I can do, Chris can do, or anyone else in the world can do. America is about to have her collapse.
We need to...
This is where Britain had her Suez Canal, America has her Trump. This is the end of the American era. You are living in the last months, days, maybe a year at tops. I think when we get to December, we will see. When we get to December, we will see the absolute... I don't necessarily think he'll survive his full term. I think the pressure...
What's in the rumours that he could potentially run for a third term?
He won't. Not
but
with
with what he's doing, he won't even make it.
Won't make it the end of this term. And the reason I say that is because the Senate and the representatives and even the Republican side will be forced by their people, by the radical shift in the value of the dollar that could happen over a year of trade war. Because the Chinese have the reserves. The Chinese could dump the entire American bonds. I said this last time. They are one of America's biggest buyers of American bonds. And if they do as a trade, nuclear trade option, and dump the American bonds on the market, the dollar crashes. The dollar horrifically crashes.
I'll be buying them for a penny.
I think China's the biggest buyer. I'll just check. Who is the biggest buyer of US debt? The US government itself is one of the biggest purchasers of its own debt.
Hang on, it's a little bit more from there.
And China, primarily Japan and China.
Japan and China are the main foreign holders.
The holders have fluctuated over time. But China is one of the massive... China was to dump its foreign bonds of buying American debt onto the open market. The dollar would just horrifically crash.
If China does that, Japan would probably soon follow suit.
I do, because Japan's also been hit with tariffs.
Yeah. So if China does it, Japan would do it, which means that the American dollar will tank massively.
And I mean, Britain holds a huge amount as well, apparently. We're the third. Japan, China, UK. As I said, when you're coming to sticky parts of economics, it can be horrific to watch how you can turn your allies into enemies very, very quickly.
That's supposed to be. If China does it, Japan does it.
Britain would have to.
We would do it.
The value would be too far.
The value would be too far. So that'd be its three biggest holders gone. That's America tanked.
Yeah, the American economy would just horrifically plunge into darkness.
It would probably tank into third world basis.
No, I don't think it will fall that far. I don't. When you take out the
or come exceptionally close.
Yeah, no, it will do enormous damage. The way of life the Americans have right now is going to plunge. This is why your president said, hold fast. But you can't. Most of America's middle class live on very, very small potatoes when it comes towards their economical means and their spending power of the middle class Americans. Middle class America has been decimated by decades and decades of lack of growth and stagnated movement. And Donald shaking the market isn't going to solve that. I do not believe he's going to get the factories to come home. The billionaires are going to tell him to fuck off. I think his own class, or his own elitist class, I don't think he'll make the end of the year if he continues down this trade war method. He's only just recently suspended the trade for 90 days to Europe and that lot, the upper end tariffs.
No, I said that was announced this morning.
Yeah, that was announced literally today. Yeah. As this recording. It was announced today. And the nightmare is he's using this as a carrot and stick method, and eventually some whole sections of the economical world are going to snap and give him a middle finger. He's going to get the middle finger from billionaires who are tired of his bullying tactics. And once he does, America's economics will be horrific. We've dedicated quite a bit of time to that, so let's go on to the next part that you've got.
Let's go on to the Home Secretary on grooming gangs.
Oh my God.
Yeah, let's go from one interesting topic to the next.
Fuck me, grooming gangs.
Home Secretary insists 5 local grooming gang inquiries will go ahead and more could follow. This is based upon inquiries on child grooming gangs that could take place in addition to the 5 confirmed. A Home Office source has told Sky News after the government is accused of backtracking on its promise. Yet again, another promise that the bullocks fit not going to uphold. Labour, what the fuck are you doing? Seriously, at this rate, what's the bloody point? Just back out. The confession over whether the inquiries were still going ahead began after Home Office Minister Jess Phillips failed to provide an update on the reviews in a statement to Parliament and instead said local authorities will be allowed to choose how to spend the $5 million of funding they have been given to tackle the grooming gangs. So basically you're passing the buck. Her statement made an hour before the Parliament rose for Easter recess led to accusations that the government was diluting the importance of the local inquiries by giving councillors choice on how to use their funds. That literally says to me, they're passing the buck. They don't want to deal with it.
Absolutely.
They're passing the buck.
Absolutely. But I want to make very, very clear, since I'm Muslim, and I'm always a bit sensitive about this grooming gang business, because obviously it's something that the far right sling in the face of British Muslims all the fucking time. From multiple sources, the grooming gang population, or percentage thereof, is around 6 to 8% of all of these disgusting human beings, every fucking one of them, all vile human beings. Only 6 to 8% of them are of British Pakistani descent. That's important to mention. If they were handed over to the religious Muslim community, you would never see another Pakistani ever touch a white girl ever again. Let's just say it what it is. Because we would take care of the fucking business. Okay? There are very strict rules in Islam about what you can and cannot do with non-mahram women who aren't part of your family. Brutally strict. Wars have been fought over these very subjects in the Muslim world. Muslim on Muslim wars, just by the accusations that someone touched another person's family, female family member. So I'm not buying this bullshit. Liberal, ultra-liberal, and in many ways woke ideology about not severely punishing filthy fucking sex predators. Let's just call it what it is. If those 6 to 8% Pakistani in Rotherham, let's take the Rotherham type culture, were handed over to the British Ummah, problem solved. Pakistani boy would never look up at another fucking white girl again. Eyes to the floor, as you're told to lower your gaze in Islam when coming across women. Lower your gaze, be respectful, be polite, do not be overly sexualized. The Quran is very specific about these points of view. The problem being is, British justice prevents the Ummah, the British Ummah, taking care of these problems. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you want to sit here and criticise Muslims about this, give them to us. We will take care of it. There won't be another Muslim grooming gang for the next 20, 30 fucking years, tops. Do you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't happen. Because we would deal with the problem. I'm not going to describe what we would do, but you only have to understand by the Quran the severity of touching another man's wife. So, I mean, in Islam, let's take an example. Chris and I are brothers, but my wife accuses Chris of this crime. It is so severe that it could lead to us to having blows, Islamically speaking. That's how serious Muslims treat this stuff. But people don't want to talk about that. And the problem being is the British government doesn't want to deal with it. The Conservatives did 14 years of not dealing with this.
It needs to be nipped in the butt.
The reality is we need to toughen the legal sentencing of grooming gangs severely. I'm talking 15, 20, 25 years. If you want to look at this from a liberal point of view, a liberal democratic point of view. From my own religious point of view, I have a method for it. I can't discuss it on podcast. We could cut the poison of kiddie fiddling out of Britain like that. You know, couple of public displays of what happens to those with signs holding on the people after we have taken care of business. And again, I can't discuss it because it's a live podcast, but we would take care of it. You would never have another kiddie fiddler. The shock value would end the conversation. And you're in favour for us dealing with it.
Yeah. Too right. If they've got their own way of dealing with the situation which benefits everybody across the board, then the British government, why the hell are you holding back?
Because it is, and we are liberal people, me and you. It's very unliberal.
But an example needs to be met. Sometimes an example that needs to be done.
Completely.
Needs the horrific.
These kiddie fiddlers need to be all rounded up and taken care of. You get 30, 40 British Muslim sheikhs, we will all say the same thing. You get us in a room and you tell us we have the final say on what to do with these Muslim groomers, the problem's gone. Do you understand it? It's gone because British justice is too soft on them. And we Muslims are saying it's too soft on them. They think they can get away with it. Signing a sex offenders registration isn't enough for these fucking grooming filth. And it's completely haram.
It isn't enough. I'd be going fucking nuts if my name was put on that list.
Of course, absolutely, because we are civic liberal people, legal people. The Quran instructs you to be lawful in the society you live in. This is why I don't call them Muslim grooming gangs, because they're not Muslim. You cannot be a practicing Muslim. When you come to a woman, you must lower your gaze. I struggle with that. You must be respectful to another man's wife and daughter. You must be acknowledgeable towards it. The whole reality is, when it comes to this grooming gang business, is how, yes, they're of Pakistani descent is what makes them famous in the news, but it is the innuendo that that's how Muslims behave. It isn't. We Muslims despise this type of behaviour. We would cut it out like a cancer, but we are never allowed to take care of this business. And it makes us angry because we have to wear the wound of what's being happened, but can't fix the wound. We're not allowed to fix the problem because British justice is supreme. Anything to add to this?
I think you made a very valid point. I honestly think it needs to be cut out as well. Obviously, everyone will debate on the method it should be cut out, but I think it should be cut
in a liberal,
maybe not quite as extreme as the way they would do it, but definitely you do this, I
say we need to build 2 or 3 prisons, take all of the child molesters and sex offenders, the whole fucking lot of them, chuck them in there for the rest of their lives. If you want the liberal answer, don't be cheap, build the prisons, lock the fucking animals up, throw away the key, and fuck.
Can we do it on one of the Scottish Islands up on the north where all the supplies have to be airdropped to them?
No, because you'd need to patrol the waters as well if you're thinking about leaving the little fuckers in there to deal with themselves.
No, the waters be patrolled by mines.
You're going into fantasy. In a realistic way of solving this problem, you build 3 major, massive prisons, new prisons. You spend the money, you lock the fucking kiddie fiddlers in there, you throw away the key. Problem solved. People now then know that if you do these nasty things, you go away forever. That's what you need to do. And that's the liberal answer to these problems. And we Muslims would accept that. Touchy, go away forever. Never come out, never see family.
That's the nicest way.
That's the solution. But Parliament doesn't want to deal with this because it's a weapon. And I think this is the reason why I want to get to this. The Conservatives and Labour to a degree want to use this as a divide and conquer tool. They don't want to resolve the problem. What's the worst thing that the British current political parties find? Having the British people united on any subject. White Britons and Muslims have the same idea to deal with kiddie fiddlers, but most people don't want to say that out loud. We would do them. Okay, I'm not going to say it, but we would do them. And most white Britons and the Muslims have got a point. You know, they ain't got a problem with this. And the reason I'm ranting is because it seems that people seem to think that we Muslims don't want the same thing as the angry, let's call it the angry ethno-nationalists. It's one of the things the angry ethno-nationalists and us agree on. Take the kiddie fiddlers and put them out. The humane method, lock them all up in prison for the rest of their lives. Build 2 or 3 new prisons, call them the nonce prisons if you like, I know that's not politically correct, and lock the fuckers away in it, and don't open the door. Yeah? Because there is no cure to paedophilia. That's the whole thing. There is no cure to it. If someone is they are a nonce. They're a nonce for life.
I don't get how they can look at kids that way. Seriously.
I blame you for raising this subject.
No, the subject needs to be talked about because it needs to be dealt with.
Of course.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the humane method to dealing with nonces is to just lock them up forever. Okay? I'm tired of this super illiberal point of view that you have to be kind and gentle to people you cannot fix. Yes, have doctors see them. Yes, see if there's a way or a method or a drug that can turn them to not being fucking harmful to society. Yes, continue the research. But whilst we're doing the research, keep them away from society. No matter their skin colour, creed, religion, whatever they are, lock the fuckers up.
Until you can turn around and go, right, there's this little pill which stops that. Until then, you're in there. Go away.
Yes, completely. Moving on. The king has been drawn into the Chinese spy scandal with his brother Andrew. Prince Andrew's entanglement with the suspected Chinese spy has pulled King Charles III into the spotlight after new details emerged on Friday, this is previous Friday, by the UK Immigration Tribunal. A statement from Dominic Hampshire, a former senior advisor to the Prince Andrew, revealed that Andrew maintained a close relationship with Yang Tengbo, the 50-year-old suspected Chinese spy, according to media reports. Yang was banned from entering the UK back in 2023. It's very recent, relatively speaking. The testimony released by the Special Immigration Appeals Commission offers a detailed account of how deep the connection ran, from meetings that included King Charles to birthday greetings to the Chinese President 𝐬𝐮𝐫𝐿. The scandal erupted in December when it emerged that Yang had enjoyed a close friendship with Prince Andrew, the brother of the King. Andrew, who is the Duke of York, already was a figure of disgrace in Britain over his close ties to the late American paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Kind of says fucking everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That made Yang the prince's only light at the end of the tunnel, according to Hampshire's testimony, the BBC reported. Yang eventually became a close advisor of Andrew's business ventures, authorised to operate on the prince's behalf as he sought Chinese investors for an initiative called the Eurasian Fund. Moreover, documents show details of Andrew's communicational channels with Chinese Z, including sending an annual birthday wishes. King Charles was aware of Andrew's initiatives, Hampshire claims in his testimony. I have had 2 meetings with the Duke and His Majesty to discuss what the Duke can do moving forward in a way that is acceptable to His Majesty. Hampshire said that the Associated Press report, it is also of note that, among other topics, the Eurasian Fund and an investor were discussed on both occasions with His Majesty the King. Fuck me sideways. The king is now involved with the Chinese spy business. Now that's tangential. Let's defend the king and Buckingham Palace here. This is Andrew's British advisor talking to the king about how Andrew can move forward. There's no moving forward, in my opinion. Andrew should have been kicked out of the royal family. Thoughts?
You do wrong, you face the consequences.
And if you're the royal family of the United Kingdom...
I'm sorry, but you're going to be made a public spectacle.
Yeah.
I don't care. Yeah, if anything, if you're the royal family, you should be upheld to the highest standards.
The highest fucking standards.
Yeah. You're there for a reason, seeing as us taxpayers' money pay for your way of living.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you. This is a major misconception. The royal family in tourism, in terms of lend-lease for their land, actually pay for themselves. This is a misconception. What is earned by the royal family goes to the treasury and then comes back to them. Do you know what I'm saying?
So most of their profit comes from...
Most of their profit... The royal family makes us a lot more money than we lose in terms of what we pay for them. So this is actually a real misconception that the royal family cost the British people too much money. They don't.
If they become self-sustaining, then fair enough.
They have always been self-sustaining.
Yeah, if they're self-sustaining, then cool. But if you're still held to the highest order, because you're...
Oh, absolutely, because you're the British royal family.
You're the peak of British...
Society. Nobility of society. Buckingham Palace released a statement on Friday admitting to meetings by Charles with Andrew and an advisor to her proposals for independent funding, but it denied that Yang was involved, which we completely believe, because even the informant turned rat ex-advisor to Prince Andrew said that it was him and Prince Andrew, that went to talk to the king, not Yang. So the spy himself is not directly involved with the king, but the fact that the subject was raised with the king was aware that it was involving a Chinese spy, this brings the fucking royal family into disrepute. And it's something what His Majesty should have kicked his brother out of the royal family, but it's his brother. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you got done dirty, I'd have to stand by you, regardless how that reflect on me. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's just what you do.
If I get done dirty, it'd be because of you.
Hey, I told you, I'd take a bullet for you.
Yeah, but you'll be the reason why we'll be getting shot at. Let's get that right.
Potatoes. But the reality is, when you're dealing with heads of state, you can't have that kind of brotherly behaviour. The reality is, Andrew should have been expelled from the royal family entirely when the Epstein shit kicked off. That should have been the end. There's no going forward from that point of view. Which means this spy business would not have been able to affect Buckingham Palace, because Andrew would have been a private citizen at that point. And as dangerous, as damaging as that would be to make his brother a private citizen, it would have been better if he had done it after the Epstein than what we are dealing with right now, which is a fucking mess. An absolute fucking mess. Whilst His Majesty met with the Duke and his advisor to hear outlining proposals for independent funding over the past year, the individual Yang was not mentioned at any time with the King in presence, so Buckingham Palace claims. I don't necessarily believe that. I'm pretty sure that the independent funding would have mentioned that the Chinese investors were involved. So that should have brought alarm bells to the King's advisors. And the King should have discussed that with his advisors, if he didn't discuss it with his advisors. You see, this is the problem. Andrew is too welded to our King Charles III, and that's a really damaging position for us to be in. I'm very much looking forward to the Crown Prince taking over the country. And the sooner the better, let's just say it what it is, because Charlie, because of his brother, Epstein, and now the Chinese spy, is seriously damaged goods at this point.
Yeah, it's about time the next clean...
This is what I'm saying.
Clean branch
this is what I'm
saying.
William should step up as the next. I think there is a constitutional conversation that needs to be had here in Britain. We're seeing rolling fucking mistakes coming from Andrew, and the King seems to be shielding him. And I don't like criticising Charles, because I do think he's a good man. As an individual, he's a good man, but I don't think he has the iota.
Separating the two, therefore, is...
I don't think King Charles III has any of the charisma, politics, or strength of his mother. I think he falls down quite considerably from Queen Elizabeth. She was an incredible monarch.
Yeah, but she learned how to keep family matters and everything else separate from...
She'd have kicked Andrew out.
Yeah.
If the Queen had been alive, Andrew would have been expelled from the family. Yeah. I think he was, because of the Epstein business. The Queen was still alive, and that his brother brought him back into the royal family, which was a massive mistake. Yeah.
I thought he was kicked out.
He was. The Epstein business. The Queen kicked him out. Charlie brought him back into the family.
You shouldn't have done that. Should have kept him as a private citizen. Then that way, the entire mess.
The spy mess wouldn't have come out.
Yeah, the spy mess wouldn't have come out.
It would have come out for Andrew, but it wouldn't have affected Buckingham Palace at that point. We wouldn't.
You may have referenced all the fact that the King's brother's in this mess, but that'd be about it.
Yeah. So, moving on from Prince Charles is, King Charles, Prince Charles, bloody hell, I'm showing my age. King Charles III's dodgy brother, Andrew, friend of Epstein, the kiddie fiddler. We have a drug gang boss who had a fling with his prison governor.
What is this, a TV fucking series?
Fuck me. The inmate of a prison governor began a relationship with a notorious criminal who ran his drug empire on an encrypted messenger service, 𝐬𝐿. It was Anthony Sandersworth's use of 𝐬𝐿 which provided evidence to his relationship with Kerry Pegg, leading to her conviction. Like the warden was convicted from this. When conducting his business, Sanders used the alias Jesse Pinkman, the meth dealer in Breaking Bad television series, and Jamie Gandolfin, the acclaimed actor who played mafia boss Tony Scarpero. He used modified smartphones, selected 𝐬𝐿, an encrypted communication platform, as a means to communicate with members of his criminal network. Hailing from Formby, Saunders had been one of Merseyside's most wanted fugitives for his part in importing £19 million of cocaine in shipments in corned beef from Argentina. Fucking dodgy.
In corned beef?
In corned beef from Argentina. But the net eventually closed around him, and he was arrested by police in May 2014 and jailed that November for 10 years after being convicted from drugs and money laundering offences. So we ain't even got to the spicy part of this yet. Just short of 3 years into his sentence, in June 2017, still quite a while away, Sanderson was transferred to HMS 𝐾𝐿, an open prison situated between Preston and Blackpool. Whilst there, he met the governess, Kerry Pegg, at 42, described as, at her Preston Crown Court as a rising star in the prison services. From the start of her term in the jail, there was concerns about Peggy's being inappropriately close to Saunderson. The court heard that Peggy and Saunderson spent a lot of time together in her office, and in October 2018, he put in a request to be released on temporary licence. Juries were told she broke prison rules by approving Saunderson's temporary release from custody without proper authority. There are specific rules for how such applications must be processed, and Peggy broke them.
That'd be why she was convicted.
Oh my days! It's like a fucking drama scene. Literally, I have a lot of friends in the netherworlds of these things. This is like the dream of dreams. I stand by this statement. Women should not be guarding men in male prisons, and should not be governors, should not be involved in them. I know that might sound misogynistic. These are the key reasons why we should separate men and women when dealing with the correction facilities.
I'm sorry for just using common sense for a second here, but I thought if in order to run a women's prison, the best bet would have a woman in charge, and a men's prison, a man in charge. To me, that goes hand in hand. Because of the fact, obviously, the best way to understand how a woman will break out would be to have a woman in charge. And to say vice versa with men, understand how men will break out, have a man in charge. Because they're of the same sex, so they'll understand each other.
Men move more logically, women move more creatively. These would make things... It's insane that in an open-air prison with a woman governor, that a notorious drug dealer was even transferred there. What the fuck was he doing in an open-air prison? And I'll tell you what it was. The you Tory bastards sold all of our smaller to medium prisons so you could make a quick buck. So let's remind people, 14 years of Tory government led to the sell-off of vast swathes of our prison industry.
What were they used for now?
I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that the whole sections of the prison industry were sold. And this is how a Merseyside drug dealer worth 19 million in cocaine was able to go to an open-air prison. So there is institutional problems here. A naive and though rising star governess got seduced by a criminal bad boy. Yeah, we fucking heard it 1,000 times over. Why was he moved to the open-air prison in the first place? That is a fundamental question that isn't asked.
That's the plot of many frigging books, isn't it?
Female romance novels.
Yeah. Bad boy. Oh.
Come on, it literally is. It's like you couldn't make this shit up. Peggy's barrister said she had been naive in the situation. Professional interaction, stupid in her professional interaction with Saunderson. She had done nothing wrong. She had done something wrong. Okay, she released a fucking drug dealer on early fucking goddamn licence. I mean, are you serious? The man was doing 10 years. Again, I hold the position, why was he transferred to an open prison to start with? That's the important question that should be echoed from this sordid. Yes, we've now lost a gifted rising star governess. That's a bad in by itself. But in an open prison, what is a celebrity drug dealing lord, crime boss, doing in an open prison in the first place? They shouldn't be in an open prison to start with. And the reasoning is overcrowdedness. Why is it overcrowded? The Tories sold all of the small to medium prisons. These are the key problems that we have in Britain that require us to reform the tax.
Does it sound like the Tories just wanted to make money off everything and solve?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're no longer the party of the working people. They're the party of corporate greed. And they have been for decades. And it's easy to shit on them whilst they're out of power, but it is an exemplary point of view on how this crime happened was because of net effects of the Tory party. You have anything else to add, Christopher?
Yes, a nice, lovely, juicy one, I think, spans off yours quite nicely. Alleged police force denying white British male applicants to boost diversity.
Fuck's sake.
I'm only going to say this before I read the lovely little article. I'm going to say why. Because of the fact we need more police. What difference what difference their skin colour is. Stop trying to please the woke fucking agenda, because I don't give a shit anymore. It's called strengthen our police force, which will strengthen our nation, therefore end quite a substantial chunk of crimes that are going on.
Why are you as a police force denying 80% of the population access to a fucking job? You bellends!
Yeah. And this is the article, one of the UK's biggest police forces temporarily, I don't care if it's temporary, it's just wrong, temporarily blocking white British male from applying to become officers. It has been claimed West Yorkshire, oh, for fuck's sake, is attempting to boost diversity by preventing applications for white British men while allowing people from underrepresented groups to lodge their applications early, according to the Telegraph.
Oh my God.
The process has led to claims that the policy is unfair towards British applicants, discriminatory and potentially even unlawful.
Fuck.
WYP maintains that the policy is designed to encourage diverse communities to consider creating a force to ensure that it is representing the people it serves. May I just say this one thing? If you're going to discriminate against 80% of the fucking goddamn nation, to try and get diverse people in, when those diverse people get in, how much harder is their job going to be because of the fact that white people are gone, you took our fucking job, you twat. Straight off the bat, you're putting them on the back foot. You're an idiot.
To be quite clear about this, Britain, in between England and Wales, we have 81.7% are white people. You are cutting 80% of the working population, and in Yorkshire it's even more. Did you say it was Yorkshire or Hampshire?
Yorkshire.
Yorkshire is even more. Yorkshire is predominantly white. So you're hamstringing yourself. You need male population in the police force. Men are physically stronger. I don't care what feminists say.
We're built that way.
We are physically built that way.
It's biology. We're just built that way.
So policing is hard work. I've got nothing but incredible respect for the Gloucester establishment. They work bastard fucking hard, even though they're given a crap load of work to do. They're understaffed, underfunded, underprivileged, underprovided for everything. The Gloucestershire establishment work amazingly for what they're doing here in the UK. To undercut 81%, which is the general population, and in Yorkshire it's even more. I don't even want to know what the Yorkshire population, I'll actually look it up. What part of Yorkshire is white? British. This is going to be quite a funny answer. White British makes up the majority of the entire area. Some statistics, 90%. 90% of Yorkshire is white.
And you deny, you're morons. I can understand the fact you want to boost diversity within your force, but why are you denying the majority of people that live in your area?
It's insane. 87% is for the rest of the UK. Yep. 90% of Yorkshire is white. Are you out of your fucking mind? Because, and it's not, I'm Muslim. I don't even have a problem with the skin colour thing. It's 90% of your workforce that you could recruit from. temporarily. You're out of your fucking skiggy mind chasing woke agenda. You need as many coppers in uniforms as possible to keep the country safe.
The fact that you're trying to chase woke agenda when you're the police force which needs to deal with the entire population is just stupid. I can understand you want, obviously, that agenda on your force to deal with that part of the population. But what is the point in doing it when the area you're trying to encourage for is over 90% white?
It's madness. I mean, this isn't like you're recruiting from inner London that probably could do with more diverse.
In inner London, I can understand.
Or Birmingham, or Liverpool. You know,
Yeah.
in a core city police forces,
Yeah.
you can have an argument with. But Yorkshire is mostly countryside. Jesus Christ.
I swear, mostly farmers as well.
I enjoyed my tractor, I got my shotgun. Reminds us of home. Reminds me of Gloucestershire. Oh, I don't like all these coloured people. Sorry, I'm stereotyping. To be honest, Gloucester's really good round. I think it is. I'm being bad at this point, and I apologise to the Gloucestershire people.
I was going to say, Gloucester-wise, I'd say we've got quite fairly decent mix, and there's not really much problems apart from the twats which decide to not follow the rules.
And they're quite far and few between, as it is. To be quite fair, I think that's an excellent position for us to stop for podcast 16. The reality I hold with involving the police force is it needs to be fairer, it needs to be just, it needs to be upheld, there needs to be more of them, they need support, they need finance, and they need to move away from both the woke agenda and helping minoritable tiny elements unfairly police Britain.
And what he means by fairer is actually recruit for your article for your area.
Yeah.
If your area is mostly British white, you need to recruit mostly British white.
Absolutely.
If your area is 50% ethnicity, 50% white, you then go 50-50.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah? That makes common sense.
Yes, that's just logical. You recruit for what you're policing. Yeah, that's just plain logical sense. There's no point in trying to boost your diversity when you haven't 90%. Got the diversity. Yeah, if you got the diversity, yes. If you haven't, don't bother.
Fuck.
Yeah. It's just plain and simple. Recruit for your area. Yeah, I can understand you want to boost diversity, but recruit it in the area which has got the diversity.
Anyway, thank you very kindly for coming to the end of this podcast 16. We are the Blue Collar Workers, your voice, your nation. I'm Sean, John or Yahya, depending on who the fuck you're asking. He's Chris.
I'm Chris. I hope you have a smashing day.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's been a pleasure. Have a lovely evening.